Hello students, in this video we would study the different elements of the generalized measurement system. So let us start with our topic. A measurement system, it is defined as a schematic arrangement of the measurement or determination of an unknown quantity and the analysis of the instrumentation. We know that the measurement system, it is going to measure the unknown quantity. So the measurement system or the complete system, it is the arrangement of all the components or all the instruments which is used for the measurement of the unknown quantity, or we can say the analysis of the instrumentation. Okay. So every measurement system, it will consist of different functional elements, and this functional element will perform some specific function, and each functional elements we can say it will composed of one or more components which together perform a particular function. So completely the measurement system, it is measuring the unknown quantity and it is performing some type of measurement, and the measurement system, it will consist of different functional elements. So we want to study the operation of the measurement system. We will study the function or operations of the function elements. Okay. So the operation is defined or explained in terms of activities of the functional elements, and as I said that functional elements consist of one or more distinct elements, components which perform a specific or required function in the measurement. So here we are studying the different elements of the generalized measurement system. So if we want to talk about the generalized measurement system, it will have different functional elements. Okay. So in the block diagram of the generalized measurement system, the measurement system, it is performing the measurement of the unknown quantity. So the input to the measurement system will be the quantity which we want to measure, and that unknown quantity we call it as an measurand. Okay. So the input is the measurand, and this input is supplied to the first functional element, that is the primary sensing element. The primary sensing element, it senses the or it measures the measurand, and then it gives it output to the variable conversion element, which is the second functional element. Then we have the variable manipulation element which manipulates the variable. Then we have the data transmission element which transmits the data between different components of the measurement system. Then either this, the output of the data transmission element directly given to the data presentation element, or it given to the data processing element, and again the output of the data processing element again given to the data presentation elements. So that after processing, the observer, it reads the value of the measured variable. So this is how generalized measurement system can be represented. So in this case we have different functional elements. So let us study each of the functional element in detail. First we'll start with the primary sensing element. So the primary sensing element is the element which is sensitive to the measured variable. So the quantity which we want to measure, that is the measurand, it makes or it first contact with the primary sensing element. So the primary sensing element, it is going to sense the measured variable, and then it is going to provide the further elements of the measurement system. Now the primary sensing element, because it is first measuring the measurand, means the measured variable. So the output of this primary sensing element, it is giving to, it can be a non-electrical quantity or it can be a electrical quantity. Like strain, pressure, force, all comes under the non-electrical quantities. Like voltage, current and rectifiers are all this comes under the electrical quantities, where the output is a electrical quantity. Now when the output of the primary sensing element is a non-electrical quantity, so it has to be converted into a electrical quantity, and this operation is performed by a transducer. The transducer is a device which converts the non-electrical quantity into an electrical quantity. So if the output of the primary sensing element is a non-electrical quantity, then it is converted into an electrical quantity through a transducer. Because the conversion is done because other functional elements of the measurement system, it may be possible that it deals with only the electrical quantity only. So non-electrical quantity, it has to be converted into an electrical quantity by a transducer. So the first stage we call it as an detector transducer stage. The detector, that is the sensor which is going to sense the physical quantity or the quantity which we want to measure, and that quantity is converted into an electrical quantity by the transducer. So the first stage we call it as an detector transducer stage. We call it as an detector So in the block diagram, we see that we see that quantity measurand is sensed or measured by the primary sensing element, and then primary sensing element is connected to the variable conversion element, so that electrical output is going to provide the input to the variable conversion element. So the second functional element is called the variable conversion element. Now where the primary sensing element, the transducer, it is converting the non-electrical quantity with the electrical quantity. So the output, it may be a voltage or it may be a current or it may be a frequency, and this electrical quantity output, it may not be acceptable by the other stages or other elements of the measurement system. So this variable conversion element, it converts the output of the primary sensing element to a form that is acceptable to the other elements of the measurement system. So the conversion here is done That's why it is called as variable conversion element. So, for example, variable conversion element is like, suppose the output of the primary sensing element after conversion, like after converting into a electrical quantity, suppose the input is in the form of an analog signal, but the other elements are in the form of a digital signal. So we are going to convert the analog signal into a digital signal by using the A to D converter, or we can say it as a analog to digital converter, which is going to convert the analog input into a digital input. So this is the example of the variable conversion element. Now, due to this conversion, the information content of the signal will not be destroyed. No damage is done, no information is lost from the signal due to this conversion. Due to this conversion. So in the block diagram here we are having the variable conversion element. It is converting the signal into a form which is acceptable to the other elements. Okay. Now comes to the variable manipulation element. Here there are sometimes necessary to change the level of the signal, like if the signal will have any low amplitude and we want to increase the level of that amplitude, or we want to increase with a high amplitude. So if you want to amplify that signal, okay. Also if you want that if the signal is having some disturbance or noise in it, so we want to remove that noise from it, so filtration has to be done. Okay. Also if you want that we want to modulate, or integration or differentiation has to be performed on the signal, that has to be done by variable manipulation element. This element manipulates the signal without destroying the information contained in the signal. Like if you want to amplify, or we use the amplifier here, and the amplifier is going to change the amplitude of the signal but not destroys the information. So variable manipulation element, they only manipulate the signal without destroying the information content, so that it is acceptable by the other components of the measurement system. Next functional element is the data transmission element. The data transmission element that transmit the data or measured variable in between different components of the system. Suppose we want to, like if in the case of satellite, control stations of the satellite, it is on the earth, and satellites, they are on the space. So we want to transmit the data from the earth to the satellites. You have to use the transmitting medium in between it. So the data transmission element, they transmit the data from one element to another element of the system. So transmission elements are required to transmit the data containing the information of the signal from one system to another, and the example is a satellite. They are physically separated from the earth, so we have two control stations, and these control stations transmit the data from the earth to the satellite via commands to them. Okay. Now in the block diagram, after the data transmission element, the data is directly going to the data presentation element, or it is giving to the data processing element. So the data processing element, they further process the data. That means if like amplification or some further modification of the signal is required, that is done by the data processing element. So after processing, the signal is given again to the data processing element. This element data presentation element which is in the form of presentable so that observer can read it easily the measured quantity. Okay, so maybe it can be given in the form of direct readings or in the form of digital output or it in the form of a recording or print of the paper. From that it can be given the observer so that observer easily read the readings. Okay, so the next the function of the data presentation element, so that the data presentation element its function is to provide the indication or recording in the form which can be evaluated by an unaided human sense or by a controller. So this data presentation element it may involve in the display devices. The display devices they will directly display the readings on it or it may involve the indicating devices which indicates the readings with the help of the pointer on the scale and in the form of a recording also like the recording the value and use over the paper. So the paper is also a type of a presentation element and display device and these recordings are the output of the data processing elements and it can be easily read out by the observer. So its function is to convert it into a readable form. Okay. So these are the different functional elements of the generalized measurement system. Now let's have a look over the flow chart of the measurement system. So these are the different stages of the measurement system. In the first stage, what the primary sensing device does it senses the analogous output so that it is done by the first element which is the detector transducer stage. So the detector is going to detect the unknown quantity and the transducer is going to convert into a analogous output or an electrical output. Now the second stage it consists of three things. The first is in the second stage the first step is to modify the transducer signal in the form of usable final stage so that it is done by variable conversion element. This conversion element going to convert the signal into the form which is acceptable to the other elements of the system. Then we have the variable manipulation element. This variable manipulation element it is going to increase the amplitude or power of the signal according to the requirement. If we want that low amplitude signal is converted into high amplitude signal, so that is done by the variable manipulation element. Then comes to the selective filters which removes the unwanted components. Unwanted components means noise or distortion from the signal. So it is filter out the unwanted components and converted into a pure signal or a pulsed form signal. Now next we have provides the indication or reading of a form which can be evaluated by the same person or some display devices or some computers. Okay, so this is done by data processing element which is going to be presentable or readable form and the data is recorded digitally on a computer. It is necessary. So these two comes to the stage 3. So in this video we studied about the different elements of the generalized measurement system. What is the measurement system and what are the various function elements, and then we study the function of those elements. So I hope this topic of the generalized measurement system is clear to you. Thank you.